Good afternoon, everyone. It is Monday, February 3rd. We're into February. It's amazing how this year is already flying by, it seems like. It is 1 o'clock, and we do have interviews that we have scheduled. So this is our special meeting. Today, I want to reflect that all 5 commissioners are present. Commissioner Jordan is on Zoom and is joining us via Zoom, and the other 4 commissioners are here in the chambers. We are doing interviews today for the county treasurer. So just so the public knows, we did receive a list of 3 people that were chosen by the county party. That is the rules that we go under, is when a resignation happens, it's the party that that person is under that sends us 3 names. And so the Republican Party sent us 3 names. It is, I'm going to say, make sure I say everybody's names correctly, I hope. Mike Volz, John Christina, and Robert Maselli. Very good. So we will be interviewing those 3 people today, and then going into executive session to have that discussion, and hopefully come out of executive session with a decision. So we will be timing our executive session so that way people know if we're extending or not. And so we have the list at the special meeting of going in order of Mike Volz, John Christina at 1:45, and at 2:15, Robert Maselli. We do plan on 30 minutes, just so everyone knows the ground rules. We will go ahead and set a timer for 30 minutes once that gets the person's up and we start the questions, so that way it's not starting ahead of that, just to kind of keep us on time and to keep it fair for everybody that we have the same amount of time. So with that, Mike Volz, if you would want to come up, and I think we'll just have you, if you want to sit, you can do that versus standing.
Sit. Push the button.
And we'll let the
on. Let the girl in again.
I was going to say let the interrogation begin, but I shouldn't say it that way, should I?
I said it that way.
Well, I've been in that seat before, so I understand it. So, so thank you all for being here today. Truly appreciate it. Any questions on the ground rules? Any comments from the commissioners? Nope. Okay, then we will go ahead and get started. We haven't identified who's asking. Oh, Commissioner Jordan, I see you raise your hand.
Chair, can you just refresh my memory on the list of questions, how we're going to go through?
Yes, so we haven't decided on that, but I think what we're going to do is the list of questions did not get pared down, so it is the full list. With the additional question that was asked. So that is what went out to everybody. So we have the full list of questions. What will be happening is we will we will go through those questions, just some of those questions, and we will have, I think I'm just going to start, Chris, if you're okay starting, I'm just going to start with District 1, and we're just going to work our way down and ask questions. Does that work for you?
I want to make sure I have the right list. How many are on the list that you're looking at?
There are 30 that went out on Friday.
Okay. Okay, sure. I can start.
Is that the list that you have?
Yes.
Okay, just a second.
And just to confirm, so we're all on the same page, my understanding was that these questions were sent out to the 3 finalists as potential questions to be asked. Being only 30-minute interviews, that we are not going to ask all 30, but it's up to each commissioner if they want to ask any of these questions in any order they choose. They have that ability. It's essentially just a bank of questions that you have the ability. You can jump around, ask whichever one you think is most relevant to ask. Is that correct?
Okay.
Okay.
And then we also do want to allow for kind of a 1-minute closing statement from each of the candidates. So, so as I'll be watching the clock to kind of keep track of that and kind of give a note that you may need to wrap up, and then you have 1 minute to kind of give your closing reasons for why you want to become the next Spokane County Treasurer.
And no opening statement was out, we decided, Madam Chair?
Yes, no opening statement.
Okay.
That way we could just get to questions. Okay.
Fair enough.
So with that then, we'll go ahead and get started. And before we start the timer, I think I do want to just give you a chance to state your name. And I always say that, state your name for the record, but just, it's not really an opening statement, but just state your name. And then we'll just start with questions. But that way, then it's for the record, it's said, pronounced correctly.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners and Vice Chair. The name is Mike Volz.
Thank you. So we will then go ahead and get started with the questions and our 30 minutes.
Okay. Well, good to see you. And the first question is, can you describe your capacity to handle the demands of the treasurer role, given any other professional or other commitments you may also have?
Yes, thank you very much. I saw that, and I figured that would be coming my way pretty quickly in this conversation. As you know, I'm also a sitting state representative in Olympia. I've been serving in my capacity as Chief Deputy Treasurer for about the last 14 years, 8 of which I've been doing double duty. So I think I have a proven track record on my capacity to do both. I've, in a lot of ways, being chief deputy has more unique challenges than being a treasurer, because not only do you have to know the workings of the office, be able to manage the workflow, the staff, and everything else related to the office, you also have to manage an elected official. So that adds a degree of difficulty. So I think I've been successful as chief deputy. Now, the law says I can't be on the ballot twice in the same year. So in 2026, and I've made this clear, I won't be running for my House seat. I'll be running for treasurer. I also made a promise that I wouldn't step down in the middle of session. That would be not in the best interest, I think, of anybody, my constituency in the 6th district. And then I have to run in 2025. I think working remotely, and I think the nature of the job when you're at any financial institution or financial office, your end is a lot of heads down work, and that doesn't change with my job on doing that. Also want to point out there's a number of elected officials in Olympia that are doing both. There's mayors for small and mid-sized towns, but there's also, I think, most relevant is 2 county commissioners who are also serving as state reps, one Democrat, one Republican, from Snohomish County, and they both seem successful in what they're doing. I've talked to both of them, and I've actually been in the elevator when they're on Zoom meetings, going between meetings in the House and sitting in on county business. So it works. We are considered a part-time citizen legislature, and there's a lot of people who have work commitments in Olympia as legislators. So it has been manageable. It will continue to be manageable. And then we will make some decisions over the next couple years on how this is going to unfold. But I want to be clear, I will not be running for the House in 2026. My commitment is to the Treasurer's office. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Waldron.
Thank you, Mr. Volz. Can you talk about your experience working with labor organizations or managing a represented workforce?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, for the last 14 years, I've been in the Chief Deputy. We have 2 unions in our office. We have successfully navigated a whole bunch of stuff in our office, including a major reorg in 2015, where we literally renegotiated every class spec in our office, changing all the union employees' duties, assignments, and that was successful. Prior to that, I was first hired in the office in 1999 as an accountant. I was in the 1553 base unit. I was promoted up to senior finance manager, at which time I moved over to the 1553S supervisors union. So I had about 7 years in both unions as a member, and then the last 14 as chief deputy, working very closely with the union leadership at the county and in our office. And I will say we have a very I'm very open in our conversations with the union. It's not adversarial at all. You can check with me with our shop stewards. I've always been straight with them, whether they agreed with me or not. But it's always been a very civil working relationship.
Mr. Volz, could you? The question I have is, how would your fellow coworkers describe you? How would they describe your management style?
Yeah, I think my coworkers in the office would say sometimes I can be a bit intense, but I've always, like I said in the previous question, I've always been open. We've always been inclusive. In fact, some of the biggest changes and improvements that we've made in the office were based on the idea of employee-led teams. I'm a practitioner of lean management, and that's the key of it. The base of it is getting your staff involved. When we started our restructuring that began in about 2012 or 13, when Rob Chase was the county treasurer, the first thing we did is we asked people what they thought we needed to fix. And they were shocked. Nobody's ever asked them before. And at the time, we've had employees there 20, 30 years. And we asked them, then we put together a small working group of staff to pull together these ideas. And they came up with about 45 tangible improvements that we should work on, or their suggestions that we worked on. We kind of grouped them together and put them into major projects and knocked most of them down. So the improvement and the basis of this office is based on collaborating with employees and getting their input. COVID kind of threw us off. We got off kilter there, and then we had high turnover, like most places did, or a lot of places did. So we're actually kind of reconvening that process, and we got a bunch of new people in the office and folks in new positions. So we're going to go back and ask them again what they think we need to work on.
So the question I would ask is, what motivates you to seek this position?
Well, I think first of all is my commitment to public service. I've been in the public sector, like I said, for the last 25 years. Since September of 1999, I was hired into the treasurer's office. 7 years there, 4 years at STA, and then back to Spokane County Treasurer's Office. So the 21, 22 of the last 25 years has been in this office. As I think all of you know, and most everybody around, I'm politically active, so I think this is kind of the culmination of my public service career, and my political career hopefully will end in this office.
I want to thank you for your years of service to the county and to the residents of Spokane. And so my question is, tell us about a time when traditional solutions didn't work. Describe the situation, and how was it traditionally solved, and how you came up with an innovative solution.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. I saw that question, and there's a couple that popped in my mind, but the number one challenge I think that came up where the traditional approach was during COVID. When we were shut down, we were directed to work from home if possible, and quite frankly, our office couldn't. We couldn't do it. We couldn't get out of there. We had mail to open, money to process. We have antiquated systems. We're kind of solving a lot of those with Workday and some other projects coming up. But the traditional approach, or even the status quo at the time of sending everybody home, just wouldn't work. It was a great time for parking at the courthouse, because there was the courts and the clerk and the treasurer's office were the offices that were mostly intact and on campus. So what we did is we divided up the office into 2 shifts. We had a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday shift and a Thursday, Friday, Saturday shift. And that's how we ran business. And everybody else who didn't have to be there, which was very few of us, were remote. And so that was challenging, and that was where we couldn't just go home and we couldn't run the business as normal. So we had to sit down and think of a way to do it. So that was probably one of those, and that probably answers a couple other questions on the list on one of the more challenging times in the office. So thank you for the question.
It's going to take us back to Commissioner Jordan.
Thank you. Can you tell us about your view of regional collaboration and supporting other jurisdictions?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic model when it works. We have different regional elected offices, and they all look out for their best interests of their constituency. And hopefully, ideally, they get together. They can come up with common solutions, but that doesn't always work. In reality, different needs, competing needs, and different challenges. But that's really at the core of what the Treasurer Office does, and what I've been doing for the bulk of the last 25 years is this idea we are a true regional service. We're the ex officio treasurer for most of the government agencies in Spokane County, excluding the cities. They can be their own treasurer. The cities and towns can be their own treasurer. Everybody else, including the county, we're your treasurer. And the other, even the cities and the state, were the ex officio tax collector. So we have the authority, we're the treasurer, we're the bank, we provide this financial service to our agencies. So the public service is for the constituencies and the citizens, but it's also for all these agencies that we serve in the office. So I think it's a fantastic model. It's something we can strive for, but it's imperfect. It doesn't always work. So I think it's a goal that we should strive for, but it's at the core of what we do in the treasurer's office.
Mr. Volz, you've worked in the office for many years and been in public service for many years. So if you were appointed Spokane County Treasurer, what would be your initial priorities? And give us an example of where the office could do better and what you would approach to make that happen.
Well, thank you for the question, Commissioner. The challenge right now is we're getting through a Workday implementation, and throughout this, not just in the treasurer's office, but a lot of stuff was identified. We were kind of in our own little world by and large. We had our own systems for stuff, so all of that's being torn down. We're on a comprehensive platform with Workday. One of the findings, or one of the outcomes of this project, was the role of the treasurer's office in these things. So we have a product called Teller, which handles all sorts of cash flowy stuff. We implemented that actually in the middle of COVID for external agencies. Now it's going to be a key part of it. So I think, as I kind of touched on earlier, I think the challenge is the immediate thing is, I think, rebooting this idea. We have to clear Workday. We're going to be transitioning, and we'll be coming to you, as we have in the past, about with the assessor on going into we need a new tax system and an assessment system. Ours predates my time at the county, and it's been, so I think 97 is when the tax system came in. So that's going to be a pretty significant task. But in the interim, we're going to reboot that kind of lean management approach. We're going to pull our people together and kind of reconvene that and get that rolling again in full speed, so we can make these improvements and identify all the issues. I think staffing and training and some of those issues have been a problem with high turnover. We seem to have a stable workforce. We have a committed workforce. The other big issue, some things you don't lose too much sleep about, some things you lose sleep about. About 80% of our executive and management team could be gone within the next 5 years. And we could, including myself, I'm not announcing my retirement today, but I turned 65 in 6 years. We have a number of people in the office that could be gone over that time. And so continuity of the office and continuity of the operations is a challenge. And we're talking, 100 and 200 years worth of experience amongst this group of dedicated people. And it's not like I can go to another treasurer's office in Spokane County and hire staff. And there's 39 of us in the state. So some of these are very unique skill sets that we need to work on developing those. Again, we've had pretty high turnover in our rank and file folks. So that's an issue. So hopefully that answers your question.
Mr. Volz, could you please describe your experience with finance and investments?
Yeah, I've been working with the investments for really for the bulk of the last 25 years in the treasurer's office. My associate, I started out as an accountant. One of my first jobs was to balance the portfolio. We manage about a $1.6 billion fixed income portfolio for the 80 different governmental agencies that we serve, and so it's not our money. It's everybody else. It's really taxpayer money and under the responsibilities of these various government agencies. So I have been deeply involved in it, developing the policy, the reporting requirements, the monitoring, working with. We have a financial advisor, which is best practice for a pool our size. So really, I think every aspect of our investment portfolio in the office I have been deeply involved in. More so than normal over the last few years. We've had, I think we've had 4 of them, 4 investment officers. Well, I guess if you, John was the first and John was the 4th. We had 2 others in between there that we brought into the office, built their resumes, and sent them off to go do other more prosperous things in that industry. So yeah, so I've had a lot of experience in that, in developing the systems, the structures, and the philosophy behind our management of investments.
So you may have kind of answered a little bit of this with Amber's question, Commissioner Walter's question, excuse me. But I'm going to ask it and see what you think is beyond Workday. So what do you see as the biggest challenges the county is going to be facing over the next 5 years? How would your office help address these challenges at Spokane County?
Yeah, we're wrapping up Workday. I think there's a few parts of that. I would say, first of all, the number one issue over the next 5 years will be the same as it has been for the last 25, the budget and financing. And I think the Treasurer's Office has always applied sound financial judgment in how we manage the budget and our budget requests and our staffing levels. We've always tried to exercise prudence and due care and operate the office as tight as we can, and we're not one. I'm not saying anything about any other department, but we don't adhere to the use it or lose it. Where if you have extra budget at the end of the year, you want to go out and spend it all to make you look impoverished. I think we've fairly consistently returned favorable budget variances, money back that we don't need to use, that we're entrusted with throughout the year. So I think that's one issue. The other is wrapping up Workday. We have a lot of old legacy homegrown system. Our debt system needs to be replaced. Our tax system needs to be replaced, and those have broad implications, not just within the Treasurer's Office, but broadly across the region and throughout the county on how we execute those. So those are, I think, the big ones. Hopefully that answers the questions and builds on previous answers.
Thank you.
So two things. One, when you hit 65, it means you're finally broken in. It's not time to retire. Question is, when you've encountered conflict in a decision-making process that involved other people, how did you go about solving the conflict?
Well, thank you, and I won't make a comment on how long it took you to get broken in, Commissioner. Yeah, 65, maybe I won't be broken in. But anyway, I always try to work collectively and solve problems, working together and directly. I think it's better to talk things through, and generally that works out. Some cases it doesn't, but that's how it works out. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But I think direct communications and clear understanding of what the issue is, and reach out to folks and try to solve problems.
Then, Madam Chair, I do have to step out to testify at a hearing. So, thank you. I'll be right back.
Thank you. Okay, it's going to take us back to Commissioner Jordan.
This is a good one. What do you consider your most important achievement in your lifetime?
Oh, in my lifetime. Okay, my lifetime got to be. Talk about broken in. I've been married for 35 years, and they say opposites attract. My wife is an introvert. She's apolitical. She doesn't like the chaos. She's a very structured, organized person. I think by nature, being a politician and in politics, we tend to gravitate towards chaos. So I think that's been a great success, and I am housebroken, and at this point, by and large, I think the second one is having 3 wonderful kids. They're all adults now. The youngest is, what is she, 23 now? 23, somewhere in there. Anyway, they're all done. They're out of the house. They're out of college, and they're off being successful, contributing adults. So I would say the family side is my greatest accomplishment, for whatever contribution I had in that. With I got in trouble before because I'd introduced my wife as my better 3/4. So, but I stand by my statement.
So this is, Mr. Volz, this is kind of following up a little bit. You talked about working regionally and the importance of collaboration, and you'd be working with a lot of different agencies, right, that have their funds managed by the county treasurer. So you'll be working really closely with a lot of elected officials, and I know you've done that for years in different capacities, but can you just describe your experience working with different folks in the political sphere, the greatest challenges you've experienced with other, moving forward and trying to find common ground with other elected officials, and how have you managed to overcome those challenges?
Well, I would say local government is far less partisan than Olympia, and Olympia is far less partisan than Washington, D.C. So I think, the old saying, the closer you are to the people, the more better government is. So I think locally, the partisan issue in working with elected officials is less of a deal. It's whether or not you come to agreement or not, and if not, you have to respect the boundaries of the elected official, and we all have the treasurers is part of a divided executive branch in county government with the clerk and the auditor and the assessor and the board of county commissioners all share that role. And I think over the years, and there's been a number of commissioners, a number of elected officials that I've worked with in my capacity as chief deputy treasurer, that I think there's been successes, and there's stuff we didn't disagree. At the end of the day, you got to accept those differences and move on. In Olympia, I have a pretty good reputation of being able to work across the aisle with folks on legislation, and you can see some of the stuff I've sponsored and some of the stuff I've voted on, where I've worked with. You can talk to some of my Democrat colleagues in the third on my willingness to work with them. Doesn't mean we agree, and part of that is telling them, no, I'm not going to do that when you can't. You're not going to be able to reach agreement. So I think I have a proven track record of doing that in a partisan environment and oftentimes in a nonpartisan way.
Could you please share with us a specific accomplishment of yours in a previous leadership role that indicates you will thrive in this position?
As previous as chief deputy treasurer, I think I've named a couple. The reorg in 2015, which saved money and improved services. I think deploying teller during the middle of COVID, which really we wish we had before COVID, because it aids in the electronic transmittal of financial documents and stuff that we need to process our information, was a pretty significant accomplishment regarding the office. Let's see. I think those probably two pretty good, solid examples.
Okay, so a hypothetical question. So let's say a friend contacts you about a newspaper article covering a current trial with pending litigation or employment matter, and asks you for more details. How would you respond?
Well, that question actually made me laugh, because I know exactly how I would respond. There were some years ago, there was a little disagreement between the city and the county assessor and the county treasurer, and there was a lawsuit involved in that. And it was when Rob Chase was treasurer, and I made a sign and stuck it up on the wall by his phone, and it said, "I cannot comment on that. We are in litigation." Period. I said, remember that. I would recreate that sign, stick it up on my wall. I'm not going to comment on that, whether on the record, off the record. When there's litigation, I would work, with the county lawyers and make sure that gets addressed appropriately and not undermine any court action or create some sort of malfeasance or conflict. So I think that's just sound policy. By the way, the county did end up winning that court case. We went all the way to the Supreme Court. So good times were had by all.
Yes, there you go. Okay, thank you. With Commissioner French not in the room right now, Commissioner Jordan, would you want to ask the next question?
Sure. Give me 1 second. I saw it on the list and I lost it.
No worries.
Oh, what do you see as the biggest challenges the county is going to face over the next 5 years? How would your office help address these challenges of the county?
Okay, we're going to have you ask another question, because I did ask that question already.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know it's a little hard for us doing it this way, but for us to all keep track of.
All right. Oh, here was another one I was looking at. Describe it, which I'm sure you get frequently in your other role. Describe a situation when you were in a public meeting and had to handle negative community feedback. What were the political pressures involved, and how did you handle it?
Well, thank you. Great question. I'm sure that has never happened to any one of us at a public town hall as elected officials. No, there was one incident. I had a town hall up in Airway Heights. I drove back. It was like blizzardy out. So I got there just in time to walk in, and it was actually surprisingly well attended. It was just myself. Sometimes we do them collectively, sometimes we don't. And there was took the questions from the floor by myself. I didn't have a screener or anything, and overall a very friendly audience. They were very Mike Volz fans for the large part. There was one guy who was very upset with me about a vote and my position on a certain issue, and he was passionate but not aggressive and not mean and not screaming, but some of the people in the audience who were disagreed with him and were supporting me were telling him to shut up, telling him to sit down. So I said, no, let him talk, and that's why I let him go and say his piece. That's part of the job. So he said his mind, spoke his mind. I answered his question, told him why I disagreed with him, and he came up to me afterward and said, I still 100% disagree with you, but thank you for letting me speak my mind. So I mean, it's part of the job. Is sometimes surprisingly not everyone agrees with us, so it's part of the job.
Mr. Volz, can you describe your experience with public records retention? And I know we have some different rules between Olympia and the county.
Well, yes, thank you for the question. They're supposed to be getting close to the same, but there are some differences on what legislative, I can't remember even what they call it, because I would never, if you want to see it, you get it. But I have 25 years in it, and with it in the public sector, both at the county, at STA, and then in legislative capacity, so the public records. And it was kind of interesting when they were going through the transition in Olympia to be subject to the public records. Everyone was freaking out. They thought the world was going to end, and that would be the end of Washington State governance as we knew it. And I told them, calm down. It'll be okay. We've dealt with this. And there was other local government folks that were used to it and understood it, and they were kind of overreacting on what we had to do. And I remember talking to people and like, listen, it's this easy. Don't say something stupid in email. If you want to say something stupid, pick up the phone or go talk to them to their face, and it's that easy. And they couldn't. I mean, there's a lot of stupid stuff we see in emails, and but anyway, it's something I've certainly been experienced with. We're very responsive in our office on trying to get public records out. We get requests all the time. We don't make people go through a form or anything. If we understand that there's a clear request there, we answer it. It's a normal course of business in our office.
This will probably be the last question.
Okay.
Make it a good one.
Okay. Well, because of that, because this is going to be the last one, I'm just I'll just. Why should we select you as the next Spokane County Treasurer?
Well, I think there's a couple facets to that. I think you want somebody who has the skills to do the job. I mean, this is an appointment. It's not an election. The public can elect whomever they want. I think you need to appoint somebody who's willing to do the job with the skill sets to do the job. I have a proven track record of being able to do that job. I served faithfully and diligently the last two county treasurers. I was first hired by Linda Wolverton. Same thing with her. I served her to the best of my ability. We actually got along great. And then the other thing is that you need somebody who can, I mean, we don't want a whole bunch of chaos and a whole bunch of turmoil. I believe I can successfully win an election in 2025 and again in 2026. I have a proven track record there. I'm committed to it. So we don't want somebody to serve and not be able to win an election, because that is highly, highly disruptive, and we've seen that on a couple of occasions, in a few occasions in Spokane County, where the appointee isn't able to win an election. So I think I check the boxes on being able to do the job and being able to win the election, and my commitment to serving the public and the citizens of Spokane County.
So now it takes us to just our minute, but that's a great question for the closing statement. So now this is your chance for a closing statement for us.
Well, first of all, thank you everybody for having me here today, and this is a kind of a unique and interesting and challenging way for applying for a job is basically what this is. And I think, answering the question I just answered, it's a very technical job, very complicated job. It requires a certain level of expertise, commitment to serving the public, and then ultimately willing to stand before the public and say, am I qualified or not? Am I the person you want? So I think with those two and my closing statement, whatever time I have, I'm out of time, so we'll call it good. So thank you very much again for having me, and thank you for this process.
Thank you. We appreciate you being here and going through the process with us. So thank you very much. We are going to take a recess for about, let's say 10 minutes. We kind of had 15 minutes in between, or we'll take 10 minutes. And then we'll be back and up for the next interview with John Christina. So thank you.